Okay. So, hi everyone. My name is Tanya Thomas. I'm a graduate student in Dr. Lahm's Entrepreneurship 645 class. And I am super excited about my subject matter expert that I'm interviewing today. I have Colin Campbell for you all, and y'all have heard a lot about his book, Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat, as all of my reflections last semester in entrepreneurship 640 were based off of his book. So before we jump into speaking with Colin, I'm going to read a short bio. Okay, so Colin has been a serial entrepreneur for over 30 years. Of course, he's the author of Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat. Serial Entrepreneur Secrets Revealed. He has co-founded and scaled various internet companies that collectively have reached a valuation of almost $1 billion, having successfully navigated the exit of companies like Tucows Interactive, Internet Direct Canada, Hostopia, GeeksForLess, and .club domains. Campbell has not only cemented his name as a startup expert, but has also collected an array of accolades, including spots on the Inc. 500 and Inc. 5000 rosters for several years in a row. A sought-after speaker in the world of entrepreneurship, Campbell has spoken at several high-profile universities and events. He has also led Startup Club with almost 1 million members, continuing to share his experiences as he interviews experts, authors, and serial entrepreneurs. So we're super excited about Colin today. Hi, Colin.
Hi, thank you for interviewing me.
You're
I really
welcome.
look forward to it. Anything we can do to help entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, that's what the book was all about. It was really, it was a big project. It took over 10 years to write
Wow.
that book. And we interviewed over 200 people, of which about 50 made the book. So it really is a compilation of stories, my career, and other people's stories that draw conclusions. And even though the book might be a little intimidating on its size, it's actually a very easy read. It's 57 chapters, and we have over 200 call outs, 30 illustrations. It's color coded for Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat. We've tried to make it as easy as possible for the reader to understand.
So, what drove you to the world of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think that goes back to childhood, really. I remember when I was, growing up, my mother and my grandmother owned a farm. And so we would work on the farm as a young age. And then we'd go to the marketplace on Sundays to sell vegetables. We'd have puppy dogs. We'd have, they'd have puppies, and we'd be selling puppy dogs at the marketplace, like at 8, 9, 10 years old.
Oh,
And
wow.
then early on, getting a newspaper route, and always looking to do that next gig, even as a kid. Whether it's a lemonade stand or whatever it was, we're always trying to sell things and make money as a child. So I early on I did recognize that, and when I first graduated, I was contemplating becoming a lawyer, and I was going down that path and realized it just wasn't fun for me, right? And I decided, even if I'm not as successful and I don't make as much money, and a lot of people at times said I was crazy not to pursue law. Instead, they said, you're gonna make a lot more money doing that than trying to run your own business. And I just said, you know what, I'm gonna give it a try. And so borrowed some money, $12,800 from my mom with interest. I used some of my student loan. I literally dropped out of college in my last year and used the
Wow.
loan that the government gave me to help fund the startup. And it took off. It lasted for about a year and a half, until the startup was actually outlawed by the 1994 by the Free Trade Act. Bill Gates had convinced Canada to sign an agreement which would outlaw software rental, and we were in the software rental business. So that was my first lesson about having to exit a business, and even when you're going down, there are ways to exit where you can mitigate the losses or at least maximize the value on exit. But early on, we realized that we had a membership base, and we did something called a BBS. This is sort of before internet, right? Bulletin board service. People would actually connect together, and we launched that. And then eventually, the internet came out, and then our members uh, started using the internet, and we grew to become the largest ISP in Canada. Took that company public, and then a series of other companies. And we've done about 12 companies now over the last 30 years. And it's been an exciting ride. And it's not been all up or down. It hasn't been all up or down. It has been a roller coaster. We've had monumental failures. We're at the age of 28 years old. I lost over $100 million,
Wow.
in publicly traded stock through a botched exit, to IPOs in 2006 to IPO, and it's been a roller coaster, and it's been a lot of fun. And I can't tell you, it's stressful. There's some downsides to being an entrepreneur. You probably know that already.
Mhm.
Um, but we have to face that. We have to recognize that. I do talk about the human side about being an entrepreneur in the book, and that's something that we often don't talk about, in entrepreneurship.
Yes. Um, so has all of the businesses, mostly roughly, that you've run been in the software realm? And is that like more of like the scalable business? Or when
Yeah,
I read the book, it was telling you how to scale in zeros and how to keep building systems that can run the business for you, and then so that you can exit and capitalize on that. So, like, what's the best like arena to be in when you're looking for a business to scale and be able to exit? Because I'm assuming it wouldn't be like a brick and mortar restaurant or something that's contained to a space.
I can see you definitely read the book.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it's chapter 3, our scalability chapter. If you're a new entrepreneur, you're thinking of launching a business, you can begin to identify different types of businesses and the difficulty associated with those businesses. So my wife and I own a school in Fort Lauderdale. We have 110 spots available. If we want to go to 111, we have to spend millions of dollars in infrastructure. So it's very difficult for us to scale that business. But um, but a software platform, like an AI platform that solves a particular need in a marketplace, that you can scale to 1,000 users, 10,000 users, 100,000 users. So when you begin to think about your idea, you want to think about scalability. Now, I don't want to make it sound like it's a panacea, because the reality is the more scalable a company is or concept, the larger the competition. It's more of a global marketplace. In the case of our school, we really do have sort of a lock on a Fort Lauderdale market. So we're able to win in that market, and we're not competing on a global scale. So there are some negatives and downsides to having scalable businesses. Just what are you comfortable with? And and I think that is important. Now, when you're talking about scaling in zeros, this concept applies to more than just software. It applies to any type of company. And I'm involved right now in real estate business, e-commerce businesses, platform businesses, advertising businesses. I've got a portfolio of about 20 companies we're currently involved in. And we try to apply the theories of the book, Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat. We try to apply them in every area of every company. And you talk about scaling in zeros, it's so important to have that mentality to say, okay, if I'm a $1,000 today, how do I get to 10,000? If I'm 10,000, how do I get to 100,000? If I have 10 distributors, how do I get 100 distributors? And begin to build your systems, put your systems in place, hire the right people to get you to that level, and make certain your story is the right story, because your story can change over time. Think of Amazon, right? And how it was just a bookseller when it first came out. And then
Mhm.
they stepped it up to say, hey, we can do CDs or DVDs and movies. Oh, and then they said, hey, we can do this. And they began to change the story of who they are. And they're really a sales and distribution company for products and have become the largest in the world. Netflix is another good example of how they changed their story. They used to be a DVD delivery company, and they said, no, we're actually in the business of serving up content. It doesn't matter how they get it. So they
Mhm.
kept their DVD. I don't even know. Do they still have that? That'd be a good one to look up. But and then they've also got their streaming services as well, and they've dominated that category. So you can see as you want to begin to scale, you want to think about your story as well.
Okay. All right. So, Colin, tell us some about um, how you got started with some rentals. You had mentioned in your book, scale, start, scale, exit, repeat, that you and your wife had had experiences where you didn't want to be in hotels and the vacation rentals, the things that they had like bedding and pottery and things like that, cookware was not up to par. And so you turned that into an interesting business idea. So can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, it's interesting actually because I'm in an Airbnb right now here in Toronto.
Mhm.
So we're very particular. I've traveled to more than 45 countries in my life for business, and quite frankly, can't stand hotel rooms. I also, when my wife and I travel, we would often choose an Airbnb, but you go to some of them and the beds are just horrible and they're just run down, older stuff, and uh, it's just not a great experience. So we've actually left Airbnbs early. And when we were setting up an Airbnb business in Fort Lauderdale and North Captiva, which is South Florida, we decided to create a concept where there are the Airbnb experience with the hotel quality beds and comfort, and also the quality of you get the cleanliness and comfort, but the experience of Airbnb, and combining those two together and having that experience replicated in 19 properties in South Florida. By doing that, we triggered, and we actually perform at the 98th percentile for Airbnb, and we get something that is very important with almost any business, and you know it, right,
Mhm.
Tanya, which is reviews. We get the top reviews, and then we get top dollar for all of our properties because we're able to put this formula together. And it really is a result of just identifying in my own personal life what I liked and just didn't like. Identify the problem in your life. What is the problem? And if you can identify that problem, you can figure out the opportunity. Because the problem was people want to go to Airbnbs, but they're not very good quality. So we came in, we put Weston Heavenly beds and we put pottery barn in. We put you know, a lot of games and some video games and just all those kind of things that you'd want or expect in an Airbnb that you can't get from a hotel. And the result has been tremendous. So it's really just identifying the whole story in the book is really identifying what the problem is and how to solve that problem and do it for others as well. Don't just do it for yourself. But I'll tell you that we do enjoy it. Like I do go to um, whether I sleep in my house or I sleep in one of our properties, they're all exactly the same mattress. So I actually enjoy it myself.
Yeah, that was really interesting because I think when in the book that it said that y'all put Weston mattresses
Yep, the Weston
in your
Heavenly
rentals.
beds. Yep, yep, all the
Yeah.
Weston Heavenly beds. That's correct. And it's also consistent, but people know what they're getting. So when they're looking at the listing, if you're looking at the listing, like an example, you can go to a sunsetescape.club, and that just loads up the listing for the beach house that we have in North Captiva. And right there in the thing, it says Weston Heavenly Beds, Pottery Barn, all the kind of stuff that you'd want if you were staying in the perfect Airbnb. But again, it just came because we had horrible experiences at other Airbnbs and realized this is not what people really want. What people really want is hotel quality and cleanliness, but also the experience of an Airbnb.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Mhm.
And so I noticed something today. I was like, in another chapter in your book, you were talking about the importance of marketing and always presenting your business. And you were stating that most times, if even if you're out walking your dog, you'll catch you out in a polo and a business shirt.
Yes.
And at conferences, like you're always marketing. And I noticed that previously you had said that you dabble in advertising and marketing too. How important is that? And another chapter of your book also said that some deals are closed at the bar at the hotel rather than making these big grand gestures and or maybe receiving an introduction for a friend. How important is that for entrepreneurs?
Okay, so we have a chapter, it's called minor majors. So think of it as growth hacks, right? A minor amount of effort can have a major impact. All right. And in that chapter, we talk about all these different techniques, which you've been talking about there. One of the ones I can't tell you is just wear your merch. I don't know. I go to these trade shows. People spend $100,000 on a trade show, and all the staff are wearing their merch. They're not wearing their colors, their logos. They're and so you don't know who they are when you walk, when you meet them, or they're not promoted. You're not there to put on a fashion show, right? You're there to sell products. You're there to make your company be known.
Mhm.
And it's fascinating because sometimes we'll sit in sessions and we wear our shirts all the time at the trade shows, and we'll sit in the front row, and almost 50% of the time the speaker is going to mention us. Now this is an industry trade show, but they just see you right there and they say, "Oh, this particular company does this." And again, you're getting more exposure for your brand or your technology or product or service. Um, yeah, I mean, we do it. And actually, I go one step further. I say, why not brand your car in your local neighborhood? Right now, my car features the paw.com logo with a picture of my dog on the car.
Oh,
And then I went
wow.
one step further and I put that on my boat because a million people go by my boat on the Intracoastal in Fort Lauderdale. So I've got that exposure. I got the car, and then you got signs on the building with paw.com and and a picture of a dog and whatnot. So I mean, it doesn't cost a lot to brand yourself, but it can have a pretty big impact. I can't tell you how many people have told me, "Oh, I saw your car, and your car is famous in Fort Lauderdale." And it's actually it's a 9-year-old Tesla, one of the first Model X's to ever be produced.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, it was number 984 Model X. But it just can't tell you how little things can make huge differences. And we often think we got to go spend millions of dollars on advertising or whatever on Facebook, Google, which in some cases you still need to do. Like at paw.com, we do spend millions of dollars in advertising every year. But we also do the little things that don't cost a lot of money that can make a big difference. Let me give you another example. My wife and I own a school in Fort Lauderdale, and um, one year, we've only done this once. I don't know why, but we created signs, lawn signs for the school saying open house on this date. And we gave them to our parents. They put them on their properties, and the school sold out almost instantly. Um, it was simple, it was cheap. We used our customers to promote us. It's those kind of little minor majors or growth hacks that we try to capture in the book, and there's more than just within the book. It's just we've done a show on growth hacks too. You can probably type it in, or minor majors startup club, and you can probably get a list of 50 of these little hacks. But that's just a few of them there.
Oh, thank you for that. Yes, because I found the colors of your book aesthetically pleasing, and I see that you have them the same colors on your polo. So nice shirt.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, we,
And
we try it, but it's interesting because we actually got recognized. We've had 12 awards for the book, and we got recognized as the best interior design nonfiction book from, I believe it was International Book Awards. It was either that one or another one. I can't remember. I think we might have won 2 awards based on the interior design. We did go all out. Forbes did a great job putting it together and the design. Our team worked with them. We had artists. We did 30 graphics, illustrations, drawn illustrations. We did 200 call outs, and it was not easy to put together. It took over 2 years. In the last 2 years, it took 6 full-time people and working to get this book, to get it published. We had an illustrator, we had editors, and we had people doing interviews. We interviewed over 200 people for the book, right? Of which 50 made the actual book. So it took a lot of work to get this thing to finally, and it's been recognized as such. Yesterday we hit #1 on Amazon again but this time for the category small business. So we're pretty excited about that. Yeah.
So tell me, how important is it when you're growing a business to hire employees that have a DIY attitude?
Yeah, and that's extremely important for when you're in startup mode, right? And I can see you really read the book well. Like you know it probably better than me. No, I'm joking. But yeah, that's extremely important for your early stage companies because when you're a startup, you basically need people who are jack of all trades. All right, because you can't afford to hire what these big corporations can hire, right? They can hire the specialists, the people, I can hire a lawyer, I can hire an HR person, you need to hire people that can do like 7 or 8 different things. And what's interesting now with AI is you can take it to another level. Even the entrepreneurs. See, entrepreneurs essentially are jack of all trades, master of none. But with AI now, we can be master of all trades. Is simply by using the chat GPT, creating custom GPTs. You can be an amateur lawyer and now you're also, you're a master at law because you're actually able to use the AI to dissect your contracts instantly through a custom GPT. I set up a custom GPT, just upload the contract, and now I ask it any question I want, and I ask it to do amendments, changes, whatever. I've done it for so many different legal applications, content writing, image generation, letters to your employee, like hiring letter or offer letters. There's so many things you can use AI for to help you out.
That was one of the questions that I was going to ask you because I saw, I believe it was a podcast or video on Startup Club about how AI and GP chat was going to help kind of propel people into like this futuristic state concerning business. So I'm glad you touched on that a bit. Speaking of Startup Club, how important is it for entrepreneurs to test their business in an incubator setting?
That's one of the things we talk about in the book. It's one of the early things you can do is join an incubator, and you know what? They're absolutely free. They're in every community. We have one in South Florida called the Alan LeVan Center. I just got an email today, and the next one's out on August 6th. But you're located in Charlotte, and I'm certain there's one in Charlotte where you can sign up to a free incubator. They're usually connected with the university. You don't have to be a university student. In fact, I think one of my students in that incubator he was like in his 60s. So it's doesn't matter. You don't have to be a student, and they're generally free. And then you've also got these environments. Like we have an incubator slash shared office environment in Fort Lauderdale. And they're great because when you run into a problem or you have a challenge and you're sitting at the coffee bar or whatever, and you start to talk about it, and other people are like, oh, I know how to solve that problem, or I know how to do this. The days of launching your business in a garage, they're over. That was Steve Jobs and Wozniak, right? Today is about launch your business in a community. Startup Club's a community as well. And we have people who come online and who just come on stage at Clubhouse. We do live shows, which we syndicate in podcasts. And they just come, we'll have a topic and they want to come on stage, they can talk about it, and we can actually help them with their business. The more you interact and get help from others, the better your chances of success. I'll give you a statistic. We interviewed the president of SCORE. SCORE, I don't know if you know SCORE. Do you know SCORE? It's an organization funded by the SBA, the Small Business Administration in the United States. And she makes the claim. So they're mentors, free mentors, free. Okay. She makes the claim that you can increase your chances of success by getting a mentor. You increase your chances of success by 3 times, and it's free. This is what we're talking about here. We're talking about dramatically increasing your chances of success by utilizing these programs, incubators, mentors, and that's called SCORE, SCORE. You can Google it. And they're in every community in the United States. They're in every community in the United States.
Okay. Well,
and they're volunteers, and it's funded by the SBA. So it's a pretty big organization. I think they have over 10,000 mentors in that organization.
That's awesome. I'm glad you gave me that information. So scaling systems. How do you make your systems work for you and they scale with the business? I mean, I read the 4 sticky note method and different things about aligning who you are and your non-negotiables when it comes to things that you don't compromise on. But other than that, building systems that scale, like sales playbook and things like that. How important is that to scaling zeros?
Yeah, exactly. First of all, when you're starting a business, a lot of it's based on the intuition of the entrepreneur. So it's very entrepreneurial based. You're delegating tasks, you're weaning a baby, literally. You're involved in every aspect of that startup. But as you begin to scale, you begin to realize, well, I can't scale myself. I'm only one person. And if I want to succeed, I've got to find ways to scale beyond myself. And the number one thing that holds people back from scaling their business, is themselves. That's the number one thing. So if we can understand that relationship, that we need to change our story, we need to change how we interact with people and hire people. We need to change our systems. You talked about the systems. We need to improve and add a lot of systems. And we need to identify different ways of financing our scalability. All right. So think of it as story, people, money, and systems, and that they're very different in start than they are in scale. And with respect to systems, I'll tell you a little story here. Back in 2006, we're running a publicly traded company, and the board was like, we were flatlining, the revenue was flatlining, the board started moving against me. And one board member came to me and says, "We think you're over your head, Colin. You're a young guy, you don't really know what you're doing here." And so I called a friend, and he said, "You got to meet this guy named Patrick D, and he runs a company called Rhythm Systems. And it's a goal-setting platform and strategic planning and execution platform, probably the best in the world, even today." And we signed up to that. It made a huge difference for us by planning 2 days of planning, 90 days of execution, 88 days of execution. We set 3-year goals, 1-year goals, quarterly goals, individual quarterly goals based on the company quarterly goals. It was all laid out in a platform. We laid out our core values. We were able to scale our values. So we'd gone to 600 employees, right? And it's easy when you're 10 people in an office and you have a culture of pizza and parties or whatever, or coffee, whatever. You can't do that when you get to 600 employees. So learning how to scale every aspect of your business, including your culture, is another one. We talk about different companies in the book and how they scaled their culture as well. But implementing systems is critical because that's how you're going to scale, right? And the first one I ask every startup to think about is simply their KPIs. Because if you don't understand your KPIs, you don't understand your drivers of growth, what's going to get you to profitability, you want to identify 3 to 5 leading indicators. A leading indicator could be something like, I need to make 50 phone calls a day, and then I'll get 10 proposals, 3 sales, and so forth and so forth. And those are the kind of things you need to think about when you're setting up a startup. If you don't have KPIs, you're flying blind. Imagine flying, you do the KPIs, you know exactly where you're going. And then in the book, I also talk about a stage gate. If you remember this correct, remember those video car racing games, and you get to a certain point and you get through the gate and you get extended time. Well, I often say to every startup, set a particular stage gate, a particular point in time, a goal, a specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. Set up that stage gate, and when you hit if you don't hit that stage gate by that time, then you either pivot or kill it. If you do hit it, then you got extended time. And that actually releases a lot of stress, because there's a lot of pressure, especially when you're in the early startup mode, from people around you. They're saying, you shouldn't be doing this, you're not making enough money. No, I said I'm going to give myself until this date to get to this point. And then we're going to, on the 4 sticky note plan, we're going to want to say, okay, well, how much money do I need to get to that point? Who are the people I need to get to that point? And what are the KPIs that I need to put in place in order to identify to get me to there? So that's the 4 sticky note plan in a nutshell, and the whole concept of scaling. We really do have to think differently beyond startup mode versus scale mode. And it changes for exit and repeat as well. The whole, story, people, money, systems changes on exit and changes on repeat.
Yes, I'm glad that you mentioned the stage gates, because a lot of people, because businesses fail, when people try to start them up, they may start taking out a whole bunch of loans and like offering up all of their possessions to try to keep the business open. And when I was reading the book, it said you don't do that. You set your stage gate, and if you see that you can't pivot and make your business profitable, then sometimes you just need to know when to gracefully bow out and maybe look at something else or come back to the table with something else. So
That's right.
that was
Yeah.
interesting. you know. So how do you capitalize on the art of exiting and being gainful about selling a business and then just doing it again? Because a lot of people don't want to sell their baby after they've cultivated it and put so much into it to go on to an adventure. So
Yeah.
how have you been
So
successful?
let me take you back to a story that wasn't so successful. Back in 1998, we were running a publicly traded company. My 2 partners and I, we decided to merge it with a cable company. And at the time, we took stock for stock swap, and we were locked up for 18 months. Well, something happened in March of 2000. You probably don't remember this, but March 2000 was something called the dot-com crash. And you probably read about it in history books. But the NASDAQ had gone from 5,000 down to as low as 1,300, or a little bit below 1,300. So can you imagine a stock market dropping almost 80% of its value? It was devastation. The music had stopped. There weren't enough chairs to go around. And we had locked our stock up for 18 months. At one point, the stock was trading at $19 a share, and my personal wealth was about 13% of that company. It was worth over $1 billion. And I was 29 years old. And that company, unfortunately, failed to raise the money because of the dot-com crash, and ended up filing for bankruptcy protection. And I sold all my shares at 6 cents a share. So I had lost over $100 million at the age of 29. And, that was my first big company that we had launched and started. Spent 10 years building it and 10 weeks destroying it, just because I bungled the exit. We often don't spend enough time on exit. We think about it as being just some of this transaction, but There's a lot of preparations, a lot of work that goes into exit. But I'll share two lessons that I did learn from that event. One is that liquidity or control, because obviously we never had liquidity when we sold the company. We had an 18-month lockup of stock we couldn't sell. And the second thing is bad things do happen. You know, the dot-com crash did happen. In 2021, I don't know if you remember this, but crypto was crazy. NFT, there's monkeys selling for $500,000. GameStop is going through the roof. Craziness. So that's total froth in the marketplace. And that's what I usually say in the book. I talk about, you know, when you see froth like that, exit stage left. Excuse me, getting over a cold. You know, what happened in 2022? We saw the war in Ukraine. We saw a hurricane hit us. We saw interest rates surge. We saw 9% inflation. It was a devastation. You know, unfortunately, I have a friend of mine who was running a real estate business at 100 employees, very successful, and the interest rates bankrupted his company. And 3 days after he shut his company down, he committed suicide. So bad things do happen. And as entrepreneurs, our trade is entrepreneurship. We are not just the owner or CEO or founder of this particular company. Our trade is entrepreneurship. And when you begin to think about that, you begin to think about the concept of starting, scaling, exiting, taking some money off the table, and repeating. Because bad things do happen. Companies do go through cycles, especially if you're in the tech industry where you're trying to start businesses in the tech industry, and you're catching a wave, and then years later that wave changes. Similar to the company in the 90s that we had sold, it was the dial-up internet, and dial-up was going the way, you know, broadband was taking over. But I have my dog is going nuts here on me. See there,
Okay.
there's the dog there.
Is that the infamous dog that's on the Telsa and the boat?
That is the dog that is on the boat and on the car. What are you barking at? She wants me to throw a ball. See?
Oh.
But that's probably a mistake, because she'll be back in 30 seconds to have me throw it again. That's right.
So tell me, I meant to ask you too, tell us a bit about paw.com.
Paw.com is an interesting one. It's been featured 4 years in a row on Inc. 5000, one of the fastest growing companies in the United States. We do dog products. We design and invent dog products. So I'll have to talk about at the very beginning of the book, this idea of following your passion. And one of my passions are dogs. We love our dogs. And we want to create products for our dogs. We're always doing it all the time. We're working on a crate, a very smart crate. We bought like 3 or 4 different travel crates for that dog I just showed you. And none of them seem to work right. So we're trying to design the ultimate travel crate. That being, you know, we've done a number of different products. We do memory foam rugs that are very design forward, usually premium price. They're not cheap, but the dogs love them. They roll around on them, they lie on them. It's great for older dogs. We do memory foam car seats for the car, and we pioneered the first 2-seater and 3-seater for the back seat of your car. If you don't have any kids, just do the entire bed, memory foam bed goes in your car with a removable insert. You go to the hotel and you can remove the insert. We pioneered waterproof blanket protectors for your couch. And again, we're the first to do that. We sold millions, I think 1 million of those or something like that in the United States, maybe a little more. And we just pioneered it. Our most recent big hit is the cooling blankets. So we've been working with a manufacturer for the last 2 years. The material itself grabs the ambient temperature of the room, but it's cloth based. I don't know how they do it, but you touch it and it's cold. It's like touching a piece of metal, right? But it's not metal, it's cloth. And those just hit really big as well.
Oh, wow.
So it's doing
awesome.
well. And you know, the key to that business, and it's like any other business, is Actually, we have a saying, and this is from learning it the hard way. Um, Test and fail more, kill losers quickly, scale winners fast. Right. So if we can just do
Mhm.
those three things, test and fail more, like that sounds almost an oxymoron, but no, because in e-commerce you need to test your products. You can fail 9 out of 10 products as long as you kill them quickly
Mhm.
if they're not taken off. Right, the stage gate your products launches, kill them quickly. But if you get that one product like cooling blanket that just hit,
Mhm.
we'll sell a 500,000 of those products. We'll scale those to infinity. That's product.
Yeah, because I definitely need one of those. That sounds awesome. So, there was something else I wanted to ask you about. It was an opportunity. I think you said that y'all were running around, and I forget what country you were in at the time, but y'all were in a taxi trying to get around places, and that you had designed something that you just never got back to. It was an idea, and now you have Uber and all of these things taking people around, and you was like, dang, I should have went back and did something with that.
And that's probably a good way to end the interview as well, because the you know you can have the best ideas in the world, but if you don't take action on them, if you're one of those people who sit back and say, "Oh, that was my idea," but you didn't take action on it, that's your own fault. And so we're sitting in a Dasha in Ukraine. Dasha is like a cabin. We have programmers, about 800 people, still to this day in Ukraine. And we're sitting around and we're so frustrated because we can't get a taxi when we travel. Well, why don't we create an app? We'll call it My Yellow Button. We even registered the domain name. So we got to the domain name part. At least we took action on that. My Yellow Button, and you press this yellow button, and you can see a taxi come to you, and you'll know exactly based on the GPS where it is and how it's getting to you. And this was 2 or 3 years before Uber launched, right? We never did take action on it. We kept the company that was development company that we had continue to develop games, and because I had some success in the games and iPad and whatnot, and eventually that company was sold off to at our basically our investment value. We never made a profit, we never lost any money, but we just sold it off. But it goes to show you that you can have a great idea. It doesn't matter. It's your My Yellow Button. If you got a My Yellow Button in it, and you got a great concept, you got to take action on it. You have to take certain action. And the second chapter of the book is ideas to action.
Mhm.
And literally, we have a this is pretty cool actually. We've taken it a little further in on Amazon. We have a booklet, a work booklet, which is like a series of exercises. And what I
Oh,
really am proud of is the ultimate startup checklist, the very last. So we expand
oh,
way beyond the book in it, and it has about 30 or 40 different things you can do, and you just check one off at a time. Go to the USPTO, check out the trademark. Check. Okay.
mhm.
Go register a domain name. Check. Okay. Go, and so we have all these things that we put in there. And they're not things like go get a bank account or stuff that you would do anyway.
Mhm.
They're more strategic initiatives you should take when starting your business as well. And that's
Okay.
called the Start.Scale.Exit Repeat Start official workbook.
Okay, I didn't know that was out there. I'm gonna have to go.
Just came out last week, so it's brand new.
Oh, great. Okay, I'm gonna have to go
Yeah.
pick one of those up. So I know that we have you're a very busy man, and we have limited time here. Um, but I wanted to thank you. The class is very excited and awaiting for me to put this together and see it. To have someone of your caliber to interview is very exciting to us all. Before I let you go, though, is there any last gem or jewel that you can bestow upon a class of expiring entrepreneurs to leave us with some last parting words?
Well, the very first chapter, ideas are everywhere. If you're just starting to think about becoming an entrepreneur, um, look for ideas in everywhere you are. And I often say that one of the best way to get ideas is actually get a job. get a job in an industry you love. Okay, so let's say you love AI, you love it. Try to get a job in that particular industry, learn everything you can, and identify bottlenecks in the industry. When you identify the bottlenecks, the pain points, the challenges, and you can solve that problem, you can solve it potentially even for that company, but then you say, hey, I could do this for every company that's similar to this. And now you've got a business, right? So ideas are everywhere. They're in your life, your experiences, they're in your work. Just keep your eyes open. My son found a $20 bill on the ground and he said he was lucky. I said, no, you were observant. You're aware. What are those $20 bills in your life? What are those opportunities that you can find? And then when you do, take action on it.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. Colin Campbell, serial entrepreneur. And thank you very much for taking
Well,
time out
it,
to
it was it was a real pleasure. And we wrote this book with the goal of trying to help others and give back. And I can see that you're doing the same. So we appreciate that as well.
Mhm. All right. Well, thank you. And you have a great day.
Thank you very much. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.